Well, I think I even mentioned in my in my first book that I was shocked to see Stone Cold condoms. And I
Yeah.
was like, if you had a Mick Foley condom, that's double protection. Not only the condom itself, but the fact that when you pull it out and your partner's going to go, is that a Mick Foley condom? Well, yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is. Like,
Yeah.
I suddenly don't feel like this is a good idea anymore. So,
And we are back for another casual conversation with the classic, and I'm here with the hardcore legend himself, the one, the only Mick Foley. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I have to tell you guys, you guys are resilient. Yeah, I wasn't interested when I met you in Vancouver, and you guys convinced me that you would have some different type of questions, so I wouldn't be on autopilot. And I'm placing my trust in you.
I know you kind of put the pressure on me to come in here with some different kinds of questions. I am gonna. There's probably 2-3 questions that because I understand. I've done enough of these to know that you guys have been asked the same things over and over again and told the same stories over and over again. And for a lot of the things that people can ask, they can YouTube it and probably find you talking about it already. So the first couple of things I ask you, you can be really quick on them. You don't need to go into detail. I'm just gonna ask these because I feel like there's some important events going on right now. For example, you've talked about the Hell in the Cell like crazy. You don't need to talk about it anymore. But they are.
And I'm just going to say that people who want to see more Hell in a Cell, we got the premiere of Dark Side of the Ring on March 25th on Vice, and I think it's going to be really good, and that will probably fill the cell quotient for most fans for a little while.
That's what I was gonna bring up, because since that is happening and coming out on March 25th, one question about that, you can really super quick about it. If you could go back in time and you had a time machine and you could whisper something to yourself before you walked out there, what would you whisper to yourself?
There are twist ties holding the cell together. Yeah, I think that's something that we were not privy to. That was a surprise. Like, even as I was walking up there and our feet were sinking into the mesh, and you could actually hear the things going, like shooting off. I remember thinking to myself, I don't recall there being twist ties in that cell match with The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. So that's probably what I probably would have informed myself, that the cell was being held together by twist ties.
This one's just obviously a more generic question, but really quickly, because for me personally, this is more of a personal question. I was like 6-7 years old in 1996. My earliest memories of wrestling were you against The Undertaker when he was still in the purple gloves, and you guys, Paul Bearer turning on him and everything like that. So what did that feud mean to you overall?
Well, it meant so much. I mean, it really not only put me on the map, but, made me, Undertaker elevated me very quickly to being one of the top heels in WWE. When I showed up for our first pay-per-view match in Milwaukee in June, it never even entered my mind that I'd be leaving with a W, and then certainly I didn't think that Paul Bearer was going to be abandoning The Undertaker. Let me try to, it's a car being serviced, so I'm going to try to turn up close the window here for better acoustic experience. There we go. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot in here. All right, hold on a second, guys. So that feud meant everything, because, had I gone into Milwaukee and not picked up that W, there would have been no Paul Bearer turn, and I would have just kind of, slowly gone down the ladder, which is what I expected and which I would have been fine with. But if that had happened, we're not having this conversation. I'm not going to comic conventions. I'm not doing the one-man show. There's no Vice special. So it was that program in WWE and the Sting program in 1991 were probably the most important as far as turning me into somebody quickly.
No, For sure. And that's just my earliest memories. And I was like, if I ever get the opportunity to talk to you, I want to ask you about that because like that's probably part of the reason I became a wrestling fan on one channel. On the other thing I really want to quickly ask you, another quick one, where would you rank that match at Mind Games against Shawn Michaels? Because for me, I feel like it's starting to get the appreciation it deserves, but it doesn't as much as a lot of the other stuff you've done. And I'm like, that was such a good match, and it did a lot for Shawn Michaels' career at the same time too, because it showed a different side of him.
Yeah, I mean, that's my second favorite match in my career. For the longest time, it had been number one. And then when I did the Backlash match with Randy Orton, that replaced it. But it was a match. I mean, the best scenarios where a match does something for both people. And that did, like you said, it kind of gave Shawn an extra layer. You know, I mean, it like he'd survived that. He'd survived that match. And for me, you know, it showed that I could have top flight matches with the best guys in the business, and you know that did a lot for the the Mankind character.
So I always my perception of you and what I said you always agree is you took guys that came off kind of like maybe they were pretty boys, whether it was The Rock early on, Triple H, Randy Orton, and you worked with them where they came out of it looking like, oh, these guys are tough and they can work with the hardcore legend and they can get through these matches. Edge, same thing. So just out of curiosity, like, is there anybody today on the roster that you think that you would love to do that with?
Oh man, let me think. I mean, you know what Sammy and Kevin Owens did was really remarkable. And Sammy's such a, I mean, he's been a great heel, but he's such a likable, relatable guy that I would have loved to have worked with Sammy. You know, I would have loved to work with Kevin Owens. Hey, listen, you know, I had a top secret meeting with MJF about the possibility of having one last match with him. And he laid out like 6 really solid weeks of storytelling. So there, you know, when I put out a feeler about doing a final match, believe me, there was no shortage of guys. You know, it was really from the deathmatch guys to MJF to Karrion Kross, like in WWE. There was no shortage of guys who were willing to do that match with me.
That's awesome. No, I heard you talk about the MJF thing, and it actually reminded me of something. I've actually known Max since like 2015 when he first started training, and it reminded me of when he first met you, and he was really excited to send me the video. And I went and found the post, and I'm going to read it to you. It was March 10th, 2015. He's like, "Today I got to meet the man that made me want to be a pro wrestler in the first place. For those of you who don't know, Mick Foley is the innovator of the phrase bang bang, and he also happens to be the first man to make me pee myself out of pure excitement." So, and that's an actual caption from his Instagram page in 2015. I went and found it. I'm like, I specifically remember him getting, so obviously he's done so much in his career. He's grown so much. He's made such a name for himself at this point. Is there any chance we might possibly at least see you guys do something on screen together soon?
Oh man, it doesn't look like it, you know, it does not look like it, but I was just flattered, you know. It's pretty cool. 2 Long Island guys meeting at a steakhouse we didn't even take a photo of the situation, but it was cool. And I mean, I don't want to tell you, it's up to him whether he wants to share his ideas, but they were good ideas. And if I could have carried it off, you know, it could have been a really good 6-week program. And, you know, he's so good and such a great pro that, you know, he would have lifted my game on the microphone, and you know, we could have probably found a way to work around my weaknesses in the ring, you know, accentuate the positives. And, you know, even if it wasn't a great match, I bet you we could have convinced a lot of people it was a great match.
No, for sure. I definitely would love to see it still, and would have loved to see it if it doesn't happen. Intrigued by it. Let's have a little fun with this then, right? Because there's 3 personas of Foley. You got Cactus Jack, you got Do Love, and you got Mankind. We're going to exclude regular Mick Foley out of this. I'm going to name some names of guys that I think you could toughen up, and you tell me what persona should be the one to face that you would want to be.
Let's do it.
First things first, Dirty Dom. If you would have faced Dirty Dom, who would face Dirty Dom? Mankind, Cactus Jack, or Do Love?
Well, to toughen up Dirty Dom,
yeah,
I think I don't think Dom stands much of a chance with the vintage like 1995 ECW Cactus Jack. You know, I think I remember, you know, driving with Jim Cornette because believe me, the Midnights were so good to me in 1990. You know, like, you know, they only had, I think it was the I'm trying to think of what the full-size car, a Chevy Lumina was like the full-size car. And it was a given that the Midnights would travel together. And they let me in on so many occasions, saved me money, took me under their wing. And I remember Corny talking about one of the things that was missing was the sense that, you wanted heels who were going to get their comeuppance. They were going to get destroyed by the monster baby faces, people bought tickets because they knew the Road Warriors were going to destroy the Midnights, if they could just get their hands on them. And they kept upping the ante to where they, ended up with a scaffold match. But I think that's part of what's missing is the idea. I mean, I don't think there's a lot missing in the current product. And I think overall the current product is better than it's ever been. But the sense that, okay, somebody's coming in and now we're getting to see this guy, Dirty Dom, get what he deserves. And so I think Cactus Jack would deal Dirty Dom a hand that he would not enjoy playing.
How about a guy like Grayson Waller?
Oh, wow. Oh, dude. Yeah. I think that's a battle of the cool guys, right? Dude's about 1/3 as cool as he thinks he is, especially in the way I've reinvented him for Cameo videos as a CD lounge singer. But he's still, even at 1/3 as cool as he thinks he is, he's still cooler than Grayson Waller.
Who would you be to step in the ring with Gunther?
Oh, man. Ooh, that's a hard-hitting guy, right? Oh, man. I think latter-day Mankind, the empathetic Mankind, because, one of the reasons I love working with Vader was because his offense was so, it was believable. It was real for the most part. It looks like about 3/4 of what Gunther does is legit. And I think in the same way The Rock was able to, elicit great sympathy from Mankind, probably working with a real strong, rugged wrestler like Gunther would be perfect for latter-day, sympathetic, happy Mankind.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a good story to be told there. The people would be rooting for you under his nasty chops there. How about a guy like Austin Theory?
Again, I think that's someone you want to see. If people think he needs to toughen up, I think you send him out there with Cactus Jack.
We'll go with Finn Balor.
Oh, wow. Finn, man. It's tough to beat that in-shape Mankind from Mind Games. I would vintage dark brown Mankind could probably unveil. Finn's such a sensational worker. I was there, sitting ringside when he got hurt with Seth Rollins, and I was sitting there right as close as you could be with Stephanie McMahon, and it really made me appreciate just how good Finn was. I didn't know Finn that well, but I remember getting kind of passionate. And, because, the fans were really tough on that match because it came at like hour 4 of SummerSlam and they hated the belt that was unveiled. It was a little disrespectful to the guys who were working so hard, especially Finn, suffering an injury like 5 minutes into a 25-minute match. But I remember saying to him, like, I was, I had a chance to watch you. You're an artist out there, it's disrespectful the way people treated you and Seth. But yeah, someone like that could have a great similar, not similar, but similar in the sense that it'd be two different styles, but somehow blending to make something magical. So vintage 96 in shape Mankind could probably have a really good match with Finn.
No, for sure. You brought up Mind Games again. I quickly got to ask you, because before doing this, I did make an effort to read your books again. I had a couple of weddings, but I tried because I'm like, I read them back in the day. Let's get some research in. And I had a question, like, in that Mind Games match, did you have any reservations of doing that getting caught in the ropes move again after what happened in Germany with Vader?
Oh, just because I lost my ear doing the same thing?
Yeah.
You would look at the the scenario and say, maybe I should remove that item from the menu. But just a year earlier, I had done it in barbed wire in Japan, a year and a half earlier. So I didn't get the memo, I guess. But that was, that mind games with Shawn Michaels when I got my head caught in the ropes and he came over and I put the mandible claw on him. That was like the best 10 seconds of my entire career because I wasn't a guy physically who could do the quick and lethal, false finishes.
Yeah.
So it was tough for me to hang with the guys who could do those things as far as just pure match quality. But I'd say for, the best 10 seconds of my career, that probably goes up there with, anything you're likely to see. I remember there was something Tommy Billington and Tiger Mask did that, I watched 100 times before I realized I could emulate it. I emulated it slowly with less authenticity, but it still wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But the hangman into the mandible claw with Shawn actually loosening while he was selling is like it's a work of art. And that was the best 10 seconds of my career.
No, that's awesome. With the Vader situation though, and I was just curious once again, like reading the book a little bit again. Do you actually know German? Like, why do you know German?
Oh, I only know German because I took it in school. But the key is,
okay, yeah.
If you want to be good at it, you have to use it. It's like getting
yeah.
So that's why it might not seem fair, but if you come over to the U.S. As a foreign wrestler, you have to be able to learn to do promos. And they say, well, it's not my natural language. I'm like, well, if I could learn to do German promos, based on taking German in middle school, you guys got to do what you got. You have to do what you can do to stand out. And so I wanted to be able to stand out. So I not only worked on German for 6 weeks before I got over there the first time, and I was a wrestling centric vocabulary list I was working on.
Yeah.
But when I would get there, I would speak only German. I would go out in the town. I mean, you could ask Al Snow about this sometime. Like by the time I made my third or fourth trip over there, I was pretty fluent. Don't read this into this the wrong way, but I used to travel with these 3 German women on my days off, and they would drive me all over Germany, and they would just talk German. And they included me. So it's just anything else. If you want to be good at something, it's all about putting the reps in. And I don't mean to be unfair to, our wrestlers who come over here, but it's really important that you be able to cut promos. Even if if I can say to this day, Kega Saru Maeni, Nakama ni Nare, Tuski Yorozo, which means, hey, I know you're having problems, come over to my side. I can help you. That's because I learned it phonetically. There's a way to do anything, and it's not necessarily what you know, it's what people think you know. So, for example, I don't speak Spanish, but I speak Santa Spanish, como te portaste este año, which means, have you been behaving this year? And then I listen. Of course, the child's going to say bien, they've been good. And then as Santa, I raise an eyebrow and say, muy bien, sí, muy bien. And then I ask them if they want what they, que vas a querer este Navidad? What would you like for Christmas? So even if you have to learn phonetically something every single week, you do it. I couldn't believe there was any controversy over the fact that Kenny Omega speaks fluent Japanese.
Yeah.
And he cut a promo that was just incredible. And I praised it. And there were people going, oh, he's killing the gimmick. You're not supposed to show that type of respect. And I'm like, no, with 36 promotions, and there have been literally thousands of American wrestlers over there, any way you can stand out is really important. If you're Brody or Hansen and you're a monster heel, maybe that's not what you need to do. But fans appreciate that. Here in the U.S., we expect everyone to speak our native tongue, but you go elsewhere, they're happy to help you learn their language. My daughter would tell me, Dad, you're driving people crazy by asking them to help you speak Spanish. And I'm like, no, they like it. And they do, people like helping you if you're looking for help. So, again, we kind of got off track, but I really believe that anything worth doing is worth doing well. And that's how I picked up, so for example, I was not a good German student. But when it came time to converse in class,
Yeah.
I could do it better than the A students. And one of the things I realized when I was like, wow, I don't even know if I should try, bother, because I don't know grammar. German's really difficult with their feminine, masculine, and neuters that seem to make no sense. But then I realized, wait a second, Dusty Rhodes gave the greatest promos in wrestling history, and his English grammar wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And so you put it out there, and I'm a firm believer that, passion is more important than technique. And again, not to belabor the point, but if you want to succeed, work hard at something.
No, for sure. I mean, I speak obviously Punjabi as a second language. As long as you try to speak and you know enough, and you're saying something wrong, like people will go with it because they appreciate the fact you're even trying and you understand some, right?
Yeah.
So, and it is reps, because if I don't speak it for a while, I forget. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I can't remember. We're always talking to this person who spoke Spanish as a first language. And I was asking, Santa te ama, which means Santa loves you. And I went, and I said, what? And she goes, it does mean I love you, but it's more for a couple, more romantic. And I said, well, what would I say? She said, Santa te quiere mucho. Santa cares about you very much. And so there's just somebody who wants me, because they know I'm doing it to try to help families, and they're happy to help. And I'm telling you, for younger wrestlers, ask a veteran to watch your match. This young man from France specifically asked me to watch his match when I was in Qatar, and he blew me away. I can't remember his name, but I did post about him, and I said, like, this kid's about 15 pounds of muscle away from being a superstar. And man, forgive me for not remembering the name because it's a complicated one, but I told him I was going to post about it, and I did. And I do believe that if you could find the guy's name,
I will find
mark
it
him for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Qatar show is insane. It's cool that they're doing that stuff over there. Really quickly before I get back to the last couple of wrestlers, though, if Santa Claus had a finisher, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Well, it could be the big boot. It could be Mr. Stocking.
Yeah. Sweet.
Okay, if known for those big boots, right? Yeah.
No, you're right. That's a big boot. Yeah. You call it the red nose. He'll leave you with the red nose.
Yeah. The way Matt Bourne did the bombs away, Santa could do the chimney drop.
Yeah.
But I actually wrote a story for Mike Kingston's Headlock series.
Yeah. I know Mike Kingston. Had him on the show.
Yeah. It was a fun little thing. I don't really know how to write for comic books. I did co-write one, a couple of them. RPM was about a descendant of Paul Revere's, and then I co-wrote about half a dozen WWE comic books. But I don't know how to write for comics, so I just write short stories.
Yeah.
I asked the person who does know, hey, work this into comic book form. And so I wrote a story about a wrestler who's heard there's going to be a WWE scout in attendance, and he gets picked up in like the northern territories of Canada and the Klondike and brought to this strange building that's filled with little people. Yeah. And he thinks the way to get over is to rough up his opponent, not give him anything, not realizing that the man he's beating up and not selling for or giving it to is Santa. Yeah. And Santa's over with everybody in that audience of little people. It's not until Santa gets in the shower and washes away the blood that the hair color leaves his beard and sees that he's has a beard of white, and he says, I was the scout. Yeah. So now when I go back and tell whatever the guy's name was, like, is this guy ready? No, he's not ready, because he had an opportunity to make somebody in front of a crowd that he was that wanted to see him, and you refused to do it. And then he ends up recommending two younger guys who went out of their way to help him. And so it was pretty cool. Santa as a wrestler, but Santa at his heart, he's kind of a man of peace, Yeah. I guess if he's angered, he could be called into action, but only to defend himself in the good name of, Christmas.
No, for sure. If he has to get in the gimmick, he can do it. Hey yo, have you guys heard about 500 Level? They make officially licensed WWE merchandise, and I actually have been working with them on a couple of designs. A design that I worked on recently was with a girl named Caitlin, who's a big Dakota Kai fan, and we designed this new Dakota Kai shirt, which you can get exclusively now at 500 Level. Once again, officially licensed with the WWE. Really wanted a new Dakota Kai shirt. Got this one designed and made, and it's on the website now, on sale now, 500level.com. Guys, join their partnership program. You get discounts the more shirts you buy, 10%, 20%, 30%. You earn points and you get a discount. They have OG shirts, guys. I had to re-up on my NWO shirts on 500 Level, the comfortable material if you get the premium shirts, but even the non-premium is super comfortable. I got NWO shirts. They got Shawn Michaels shirts. You can find some of your favorite wrestlers on there. You can find none other than guys like Razor Ramon, the bad guy. Check out this shirt. It's a sweet, sweet shirt, everybody. 500level.com. Like I said, they have the NWO stuff. And if you're like a big NXT fan, they got shirts for all of your favorite NXT wrestlers. And if they don't, let me know, and I'll make sure we get some shirts made for your favorite NXT wrestler. I went to go support my girl, Carmen Petrovic. You guys can check out our casual conversation on my YouTube channel. You can check out mine and Carmen Petrovic's casual conversation. But 500 Level had a Carmen Petrovic shirt. I had to go support my fellow Canadian and the homie Carmen Petrovic, guys. 500level.com, guys. Check them out. Get premium, officially licensed WWE shirts that you cannot find on WWE shop all the time. They have a huge selection on their website also for MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL. They got shirts for everything, but their wrestling selection is insane. Custom creative designs. Maybe I can work together with someone out there that is an editor that wants to put more designs on the website. Hit me up. 500level.com. Check them out and keep doing the thing. Really quickly because now I'm curious, because obviously, like, you're a really good storyteller. Your books, there's something like, obviously you wrote them yourself. You didn't have a ghostwriter. You've written memoirs. You've written some stories as well, like children's stories, and you have a way of telling a story while it's still humorous and it's fun. It's playful. And that being said, if someone with all these streaming services now came to you and said, "Hey, we want to turn your book or your life into like a show where you get to narrate over it," would that be something you'd be interested to do? Maybe I'm just putting this out in the universe and someone will hear this and they'll approach you, but is that something you'd love to do?
There's been something in the works for a couple of years. I think
okay.
Well over 2 years. It may have been 3 years ago I first met with these people. And I mean, we've got we've talked to 4 showrunners. I think we settled on one. Paul Walter Hauser's shown some interest in portraying me. Now, Paul's legit about 6 inches shorter than I am, but I'm about 5 inches taller than most people think I am. That's like one of the first things people say to me is, "I didn't know you were this tall." And I'm 2 inches shorter than I used to be, but I'm still 6'2". And I think most people think I'm about 5'10". And so Hauser, I think he could do a unique take on it. Not an imitation, but I think he could find the spirit of that 1995 Cactus Jack. I also am really high on deathmatch wrestler Casanova Valentine, who not only looks like me, but he's got a similar personality too. And so the plus there is he could do his, he's a stunt man. He could do his own stunts. He's been taking acting lessons, and he's got a real kind aura despite, being a menacing figure. This is a story that people don't know, is that this is your breaking news. And we didn't put the story out there as we feel like it's more suitable next holiday season, is that every year I do these Santa videos for like 40 to 50 of my relatives, friends, colleagues. And so like Trish Stratus has gotten a video for 9 years, Nora Jones for 8-9 years, Undertaker for 4 years, Rock's the biggest fan of my videos. Like the voice messages he sends me after he receives the video bring a tear to your eye. It's like my favorite Rock memory is actually not a match, but him sending voice messages to me after I do these videos for him. And so every year I try to have a different theme. And so this year's theme was, he answers a question. And the question was, how do you manage not only to deliver the toys, but to make the toys? It seems like there wouldn't be enough time. And Santa gives this scientific explanation about using the, the power of the Aurora Borealis, bottling it at the source in a form of dust, and sprinkling it to where he can actually slow down time. And so I actually flew Casanova Valentine, who's a talented artist, flew him to Nashville so that we could do rear angle shots with him wearing my Santa stuff and him painting a wooden choo-choo train engine. And when we speed it up, it looks like he's painting it in about 15 seconds. So, and I think he got one of the best payoffs of his career by coming to my house and painting. There's a guy who goes through barbed wire light tubes, and he has his biggest payoff painting a choo-choo train in the Foley house. Like, it's just, I love the stories behind the story. And so we'll probably do something about that next year because it was pretty cool. And he told my friend and my social media assistant, Casey Hopkins, that it was one of the best days of his life. So anyway, Paul Walter Hauser or Casanova Valentine and I obviously, I'm going to look at anybody that is serious about portraying this character, but in order to be successful, you have to draw in non-wrestling fans with the human drama of it. And it's a delicate line because it's a real, physically destructive time of my career, but it was also a really intriguing and surreal time. And that's why I always wanted that moment of time to be like, sliced, like I have a nice slice of that pie instead of trying to, inhale the whole thing and really sit down and enjoy it. And make those moments come alive. So I'm excited about it. I'll still believe it when I see it. For example, I didn't really believe that our reality show was going through until the crew knocked on the door at 9 in the morning. And I was like, okay, I guess this is really happening. So much so that I had booked 10 straight weekends of work. So when I did Holy Foley, I think I went 56 days in a row without a day off because I was leaving, and not just leaving like to go to, Jersey. I was like going to Montana one weekend, British Columbia, the sticks of British Columbia another weekend. Yeah. I was pretty worn out. There were some times when I was really, staggering from exhaustion when I did those interview segments.
That's crazy. It was a good show. I'm surprised there was never a season 2, but Holy Foley was entertaining. And it's funny that...
I think what the two mistakes they made were they should have just shown the 10 episodes as one season. They tried to divide it up into 2 seasons, and they were so excited about it. They thought it could do what I thought was impossible, which is bring non-wrestling fans to subscribe to a wrestling channel. And I thought, I don't think anything's going to do that. But I liked the show. And, there were some people who were critical, like, hey, he'll do anything. He'll exploit his family. And I'm like, hey, if you guys were given a chance to spend 10 weeks with your family, have a great experience, get paid, and create something you're proud of, like, you wouldn't take that? I think you would.
And it's always there. It's like almost like having your own home videos that was recorded by other people that you can always go back and watch.
My younger boys watch those episodes over and over. Like like I talk about slice of life. It's them at that time of their lives. Just 2 Christmases ago, a year and a half, 15 months ago, I posted a before and after photo of my 2 younger boys and I, and Noel in each photo. And the kids are 10 years later about the same weight or even less, and they've grown 13, 14 inches. So they don't even look like the same human beings.
Yeah.
So they love looking back on that time of their lives, though.
It's cool. It's cool. And it's like, it's filmed all the time, like as a reality show is, but it's like just seeing things in the background and doing stuff. I'm also curious how many tequila nights The Rock has had thinking about how Santa Claus gets his gifts everywhere.
I don't know about that. I don't have that kind of inner information.
Hey, yo, it's your boy, The Wrestling Classic. Just with a very special announcement. I gotta let you guys know about the premier wrestling convention in Los Angeles, LAX Fan Fest. Check them out. Bret the Hitman Hart, Dustin Rhodes, Rikishi, Conan, Godfather, Mina Shirakawa, Victoria, so many great names. LAX Fan Fest, June 28, 2025. 5711 Century Boulevard at the Hilton by LAX. Come on through. It's the premier wrestling convention in Los Angeles. If you haven't been to one, you'll absolutely enjoy it. We'll be doing a giveaway for all of you big Bret Hart fans, so keep your eye out for that giveaway. Follow LAX FanFest on social media. Follow the Wrestling Classic. Check out fanfestlax.com. Get your tickets. Google it. Figure it out. Be there. June 28th, LAX FanFest. Bret Hart, Dustin Rhodes, Rikishi, X-Pac, Conan, then the list goes on. If you're an old school wrestling fan, if you're a new school wrestling fan, you're going to have a blast. LAX FanFest. Come through. Make sure you're there. Keep doing the thing. Last couple of questions. We'll wrap this up because I said I wouldn't keep it that long. You brought up, Casanova, who's a deathmatch wrestler. We see guys like Darby Allin now. We just saw Moxley with the stuff in his back, the barbed wire stuff stuck to his back. Is there any point now, you being the hardcore legend that you are, the death matches in Japan, that you see anything you're like, oh, this is a little much? Or
Well, some of the stuff from Heights.
Yeah.
I really believe in, precautions. One of the benefits we had in Japan was knowing that the young boys, and that's a reverent name. That's not a dismissive name. That they're the trainees. They'd do anything for you. And they're going to keep you safe. They're going to be there with the wet towels, the buckets of water, whatever they need. So I urge strong precaution. These are adults, making decisions, adult decisions. Nobody's, best of my knowledge, nobody's ever been forced into deathmatch wrestling. And one thing I would encourage is, if fans, enjoy that, and they go to a match, buy a couple t-shirts, because these guys are working really hard doing a type of wrestling that's definitely not for everybody. And when you add up the dollars and cents in a venue, you realize the guys aren't making much to explore this passion of theirs. So support them, and that goes for any indie show. Support the guys, buy a t-shirt, get an autograph, and support wrestling at its grassroots.
No, for sure. I mean, you were here in Vancouver for that deathmatch show at No Fate Wrestling with Tara Zepp, and it was a pleasure of mine. I'm like, I never thought I'd get to commentate a Mick Foley sort of segment. And then when you came out there, it hit me. And I was like, oh, wait, this is weird to me. Like, this is so cool.
And you know what was really, I'm going to go with the word beautiful, is that there was so much of what unfurled was not, in the cards.
No.
It was, Jimmy did such a great job. Like, I really respected how he took care of her as much as you possibly can with these really dangerous things. And then Llyod cut this great promo where he, nobody said, do a babyface promo. And nobody said to me, hey, go back out there. But I'm just standing backstage and I'm thinking to myself, it feels like I should go out there. And that's where you have the latitude that you wouldn't have, at a WWE show. I couldn't just say, I feel like I need to go out there.
Yeah.
But I did, and I shook his hand. I didn't do like that. Hey, should I? I just put it out there and I shook his hand. And then there's that great photo where I go to Tara and she leans her head on my shoulder. She's just been through this hellacious experience. And then she's, suddenly transformed into that little wrestling fan on her couch. And that was a moment, and it doesn't matter that it happened in front of 250 people instead of 25,000. Like, anyone who was there won't forget that.
No, definitely. I won't either. And it was genuine. It felt real. Like, he earned your respect at the end. Tara went through a lot that entire day trying to set that up and make everything work. It was cool.
I want to say that A24, which is a top-rate production company, is doing a documentary on deathmatch wrestling that I am part of. They interviewed me about 10 months ago, and it turned into a really emotional interview, which I did not expect. But I guess a lot of the documentary uses Jimmy Llyod as like its focal point, following him in Japan, doing a death match with the director or producer of the documentary. So that's going to be really interesting. And again, it's for everybody, but it is definitely for some people. And they, as long as it's a willing audience and willing participants who know the dangers going in, then it's not up to me to tell them not to do it.
Yeah. And it's just, a lot of them will come out there and they'll say that you inspired them a lot. So I'm always curious, like, have you seen the change? Has it gotten more drastic? But you're right. They're adults making decisions. And, they're gonna find the safest ways to do it, and that's cool. I have to ask you, what's the weirdest piece of like Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, Do Love merchandise you have? Either the funniest or the weirdest thing that you're like, I'm surprised this is even a thing.
Well, I think I even mentioned in my in my first book that I was shocked to see Stone Cold condoms.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you had a Mick Foley condom, that's double protection. Not only the condom itself, but the fact that when you pull it out and your partner's going to go, is that a Mick Foley condom? Well, yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is. Like, I suddenly don't feel like this is a good idea anymore. So it's dually effective. I think the toothbrush for a guy who was known for not having teeth was a pretty good one. The toothbrush. I remember when I was working for TNA and I got my WWE royalty check, and one of my kids was like, "You still get a royalty check from WWE?" I was like, "Yeah." And they said, "What merchandise could they possibly have of you?" And I opened it up, and they had like 100 items,
Yeah.
And this is 10 years after I stopped wrestling full time, and now I'd say there's a few hundred, and so I'm really grateful. I want to clear. Can I clear something up here?
Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have an ambassador job that pays me $2.88 million, as has been reported.
Yeah.
Like, I had an ambassador job for 2 years that paid me literally 1/14 of that. But it's been rumored that I have this luxurious job, and I'm like, I don't think I'd be out on the road 200 days a year if I was making $2.88 million a year to be an ambassador. Like, if somebody else has that type of job, good on them. But I just want to put out, like, I love my relationship with WWE, right? I did an appearance for them at Royal Rumble, a signing. I'm doing an appearance for them at, what the new version of Access is. And I have a Legends deal that, because WWE has seen fit to promote me as, somebody of importance, is better than it was 20 years ago, which is crazy, better than it was 20 years ago, better than it was 10 years ago. So I'm really grateful for that relationship. But I don't receive $2.88 million. I receive $0 because I'm not an ambassador. In some ways, I always will be. Anywhere I walk, I'm kind of a walking billboard for WWE. But I just want to clear that up as an exclusive. I do not have any ambassador contract, let alone an ambassador contract for $2.88 million a year.
So you're not just driving around in like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari right now?
No,
with
I'm
your
in a
ambassador
minivan.
Money?
I'm in a rented minivan right now. I sure am.
To take you back, last two questions. To take you back for a second, just going back to your early days. You're training with Danucci. You're doing your thing. You're trying to save as much money as you can. And the word on the street was you're a big peanut butter and jelly connoisseur. So what is the best way to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And have you ever tried doing the extra stuff with bananas or anything? Or are you just a straight peanut butter and jelly guy?
Wow. Well, don't get the combo. I mean, people are tempted to get the combo, because it's one jar instead of two. You have to have no matter how much you're skimping, refrigerate your jelly or strawberry jam. I'm a believer in a lot of peanut butter. I mean, I like a lot of peanut butter, a lot of jelly on my sandwiches. And as long as you're at it, try to buy something like Dave's Killer White Bread. At least it's not as bad as it could be. But hey, I'm all for doing the Elvis thing. The grilled peanut butter banana was his favorite. That's delicious. It's almost like pizza. As long as you have the elements, which is dough, sauce, cheese, it's going to be pretty good. It's said that pizza is like sex. When it's great, it's amazing, and even when it's not that good, it's still pretty good. So I do remember, though, not enjoying the dual blended, especially when I had basically a loaf of bread and one jar to exist on in my first week in the world-class territory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it feels like you get the bread, you put the peanut butter on one side and the jam on the one side, and it makes the perfect combo. Being pre-mixed doesn't do that for it.
No, you put the peanut butter on both sides. It acts as a border so the jelly doesn't. Hey, I got to tell you, for you Moxley fans out there, John, he realized he needed some help, but he went into rehab a day after his book was released. So I think it took a little focus off of the book, but he wrote a really good book. And there's a chapter in there. I don't know what it's called, but it should be required reading for every fan and every wrestler, about how wrestling doesn't belong to just one company. It belongs to us, like us as wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And there's also a pretty detailed chapter about how to make the perfect sandwich. And I saw a couple of people like, well, he rambles on about a sandwich. It's like, yeah, that's when you skip that. If you're not interested in how John Moxley makes a sandwich, skip that chapter. But some of us are interested in making the perfect sandwich. But I believe you put peanut butter on both sides to act as a barrier to keep the jelly from seeping into the porous bread.
No, for sure. And I actually agree about that, because I read his book, and he also did this thing where he was sharing like songs in every chapter, like this is the song or album. And I'm like, I really enjoyed that. It's like cool to know that part, right? Like,
it is cool. And I'm like, so he used to listen to The Ride by David Allan Coe. And I specifically wrote about that. I can't verify it, but my guess is he found that song. If he knew of it, it probably added, and I'm not trying to start a feud with Moxley.
Yeah.
He might fire back. I knew that I loved that song before Foley's book. But hey, if that musical choice could inspire people, because that line, boy, can you make folks feel what you feel inside. If you're big star bound, just remember it's a long, hard ride. That holds true for music. And I'd say that song, along with It's a Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll, are perfect, perfect analogies to wrestling.
That's awesome. I don't have to ask you about music now, because you've already talked about it, and that's great. Now I'm just curious, and we'll go to the last question, because we kept you longer than I promised I would. Really quickly, on the Moxley stuff and on the music stuff, it was about that. I was going, I have to try the Elvis thing, but I was going to ask you, like, because you brought up pizza. Do you have a favorite pizza place? Like, where have you had the best slice of pizza?
Oh, wow. I mean, I grew up on Long Island, where it was a given that every place was going to be at least good. You couldn't exist as a pizza place if you were not good, because there's one in just about every little strip mall on Long Island, in this tri-state area, New York. New York metro area, which includes Long Island, Brooklyn. They really pride themselves on their pizza. I'm trying, if I had to pick, I got to tell you, wow. It's not Sbarro's, but it was previously known as Mama Sbarro's. Sbarro's not bad in getting New York style pizza, like in different parts of the country. They have a new name, and it's not helpful at all that I can't remember the name. Originally from New Hyde Park, New York, but they've got some outrageous pizza. And I grew up where my dad would bring a pizza pie home from a restaurant called Mario's, which just went out of business about a year ago. But always loved Mario's pizza because it reminds me of my childhood.
That's awesome. Okay, last but not least, and I'm glad you brought up the word childhood, because I asked this to everybody to wrap up every interview. And I think for you, like, you've done so much in your career, you've done so much in your life. You got a beautiful family, you got beautiful kids. You live in life. You're traveling. You're doing the thing still. You've lost a ton of weight. We've been following that journey on YouTube. But all being said, do you feel like you've made your younger self proud? Like, if you would have talked to like 10-year-old Mick Foley or 17-year-old Mick Foley that was on the amateur wrestling team or any of that stuff, like, would you think that he would be like, damn, like, we lived a pretty cool life?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had some pretty big dreams, and I'm lucky that, I was able to surpass even my biggest dreams. I didn't realize how big WWE could get. So even when I hoped that I could be, a player in that organization, I never believed that it would get as big as it eventually did. For example, I thought I had like a 1.5-year shelf life when I got out of wrestling full time in 2000, and here we are 25 years later, and fans have been passing down some of my matches. I find this unique situation where women who are not wrestling fans, when shown wrestling, gravitate towards me as their favorite or one of their favorites, because they sense there's something different and relatable about the characters I portrayed.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think, once again, reading the book and reading about your younger days again, I'm like, I think you think it was pretty cool, everything
Yeah.
you've gotten to do. So that's awesome. I appreciate your time. I know we're in a little longer. Hopefully this was better than you expected.
Can I get a
I still have, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you very much. Can I get a plug in for the one-man show?
Yeah, for sure. Plug it right now.
Yeah, we've got about 30 dates. I've done 3. I really like where the tour is going. Like, it seemed to connect from day one. And then it's a matter of, working on stories, figuring out what to keep, what to discard. But we're going to about 30 cities in the U.S. We haven't added any Canadian dates, any overseas dates, but we're hitting quite a few states in the U.S. And if you're interested to find out where we're going, just go to my website, realmickfoley.com. And if you're interested in ordering Cameo, you go to the same place as well.
Yeah. And for those, like, do you still do the thing where they can pick a persona and you do the cameo in that persona?
Yeah, I can't do them as Cactus Jack.
Okay.
I lost my bloody headband. And, Cactus, see, the Mankind and Dude Love lend themselves to doing caricatures of the character, whereas Cactus Jack doesn't. So once I find my bloody headband, he really makes a cameo on Cameo where he might show up for, there's a duet I do where I turn the song Rocking Around the Christmas Tree into Talking About Your Birthday Bash. Yeah. And there's a line I love doing where, if it's Dude, he goes, you will get this kooky kind of feeling when you hear Cactus Jack say, and so I whisk off the Mankind do-rag and glasses, and I've got the bloody headband, and Cactus says, I'm not begging, but save some cake for the hardcore legend. So he does a little bit of singing. So yeah, you can request Cactus, but he doesn't appear for very long. But the average video is 3 to 4 minutes. It's fun. I really enjoy doing them, and I think people can tell. And I'm not to brag, but I've been the most requested wrestler for 5 straight years, and I think the most requested athlete for 4 out of those 5 years. And I'll argue that Frank the Tank is not an athlete, but a commentator on athletics, which does not make him. I'll say that I still have it for 5 straight years. So if somebody wants to check out my it's cameo.com/Mick Foley. Look at some of the reviews and some of the past videos. You'd be like, hey, this guy's not phoning it in.
Yeah, so you got a bang for your
really
buck.
Enjoying it. I try to give people a bang for their buck, definitely.
Yeah. You should start doing the steal it from the big boom guys and start giving people big bangs. 3 big bangs.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh yeah, I'll send a video. I'll let you see it. But anyways, I appreciate your time. I hope I had a lot of more random questions here for you to do with the personas and the 3 faces of Foley. But I do appreciate your time.
I enjoyed them.
Thank you. I'm glad. I hope I did a decent job giving you some different kind of questions or asking them differently. But
excellent,
I appreciate
excellent work. And we went 50 minutes instead of 20, so I must have enjoyed it.
No, thank you. I know. I apologize if you didn't, but if you did, that's great.
All right. Have a nice day.
You as well. That's perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.